The alien queen told her daughters to pick a mate, but they both fell for the same Earthling. The decree of stars. The throne room of Etheria gleamed like the inside of a crystal geode, walls pulsing with soft violet light that seemed to breathe with the planet itself. Princess Zara stood beside her sister Kaida, both draped in flowing garments that shimmered between solid and liquid states, responding to their emotional currents. Before them, Empress Valora rose from her throne, her presence filling the vast chamber. "My daughters," the Empress began, her voice carrying the weight of countless generations, "you have reached the age of selection. Our people's survival depends on strong alliances, on bonds that span the stars." Zara felt her pulse quicken. She had known this day would come, had prepared for it since childhood, yet standing here made it suddenly impossibly real. Beside her, Kaida's hand found hers, a brief squeeze of solidarity. "You will travel to the outer systems," Valora continued. "You will observe, evaluate, and choose mates who will strengthen our empire. This is not merely tradition, it is survival." Kaida stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tremor Zara knew she must be feeling. "Mother, what of choice? What of connection beyond strategy?" The Empress's expression softened, just barely. "Connection will come, child. It always does. But duty comes first." 3 weeks later, Zara and Kaida descended through Earth's atmosphere in a vessel disguised as a private aircraft. They had chosen this planet for its biodiversity and the reports of its inhabitants' curious blend of fragility and resilience. The coordinates led them to a research facility perched on the edge of the Portuguese coast, where limestone cliffs met the Atlantic in an endless conversation of wave and stone. Dr. Marcus Way was the first human they encountered, stepping out of the facility's main building with a tablet tucked under one arm, and genuine curiosity lighting his dark eyes. His skin was sun-touched, his black hair slightly disheveled from the coastal wind. He wore practical clothing, simple pants and a shirt that bore the facility's logo, but moved with an unconscious grace. "You must be the visiting scholars from the Etherian Institute," he said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I'm Marcus. Welcome to the Marine Bioluminescence Research Center." Zara shook his hand first, feeling the warmth of his skin, the calluses that spoke of hands-on work. "I'm Zara, this is my sister Kaida." When Kaida took his hand, Zara noticed the way her sister's eyes widened slightly, the faint deepening of her purple hue, a telltale sign among their people of sudden interest. Zara felt something stir in her chest. Surely not jealousy, not yet. Marcus led them through the facility, his enthusiasm infectious as he described his work studying organisms that created their own light in the ocean's depths. "There's something profound about creatures that carry their own stars," he said, pausing at a viewing tank where tiny organisms swirled like living galaxies. "In total darkness, they choose to shine." Kaida moved closer to the tank, her reflection ghosting across the glass. "We have similar beings on our world," she said softly. "We believe they remember the light of creation." Marcus turned to her, something kindling in his expression. Recognition, perhaps, of a kindred spirit. "That's beautiful. Most people see them as simple biological mechanisms." "Most people," Zara interjected, "don't look closely enough." His gaze shifted to her, and she felt the full weight of his attention. It was different from the way courtiers looked at her on Etheria. No calculation, no assessment of value. Just genuine interest in who she might be. "I have a feeling you two are going to teach me as much as I teach you," Marcus said with a smile that reached his eyes. As the sun set over the Atlantic that evening, painting the sky in colors that reminded Zara achingly of home, she stood with Kaida on the facility's observation deck. "He's remarkable," Kaida whispered. Zara's heart sank even as it soared. "Yes, he is." Neither sister spoke the fear that had already taken root between them, that their mother's decree might lead them not to separate destinies, but to a collision that would test everything they were to each other. They come. Two hearts, one soul, the days melted into each other like watercolors bleeding across canvas. Marcus had arranged for Zara and Kaida to join his research team's night dive, an expedition to observe bioluminescent plankton in their natural habitat. The ocean stretched before them under a moonless sky, dark and infinite as the space between stars. "The darkness is important," Marcus explained as they prepared their equipment on the boat. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking regulators and tanks. Our lights would scatter them. We need to let the ocean reveal itself on its own terms. Zara adjusted her wetsuit, the material strange against her skin. On Etheria, they would simply adapt their biology to the water. But here they had to rely on human technology. There was something charming about it, the vulnerability it required. "You're not nervous?" Marcus asked, noticing her checking her gear for the third time. "I've traveled through the vacuum of space," Zara said with a grin, "but somehow this feels different." "Because space is familiar to you," he said, understanding flickering in his eyes. "This is my world. Let me keep you safe here." The intimacy of those words hung between them. Kaida, adjusting her own equipment nearby, glanced up sharply. When they submerged, the world transformed. Marcus had been right. The darkness was essential. As they descended, suspended in the black water, Zara's eyes adjusted to see Marcus ahead, his silhouette outlined by the faint luminescence he disturbed with each movement. Then she waved her hand through the water. The ocean exploded with light. Millions of tiny organisms ignited at her touch, creating swirls and spirals of blue-green radiance that traced every movement. Zara spun slowly, her body painting light across the darkness, and looked over to see Marcus watching her with undisguised wonder. In that moment, suspended in beauty, neither fully his world nor hers, something passed between them. Wordless, profound, undeniable. But when she turned, she saw Kaida had also stopped swimming. Her sister hung in the water like a purple ghost, surrounded by her own constellation of light, and Marcus was looking between them both with an expression that held equal parts awe and something deeper, more complicated. Back on the boat, wrapped in towels as the wind dried their skin, Marcus poured them hot tea from a thermos. "That was transcendent," he said quietly. "I've done hundreds of night dives, but watching you two experience it for the first time." He trailed off, shaking his head. "It reminded me why I fell in love with this work." Kaida moved closer to him, drawn by the vulnerability in his voice. "Tell us, why did you?" Marcus stared out at the dark water. "My mother died when I was 12. Cancer. In those last weeks, she couldn't leave the hospital, couldn't see the ocean she loved. So I would bring her videos, pictures, descriptions, anything to bring the sea to her." His voice caught slightly. "The night before she passed, she told me that every living thing carries light inside it. Some just shine brighter than others. She asked me to find that light, to study it, to understand it." Without thinking, Zara reached for his hand. At the same moment, Kaida did the same from his other side. Marcus looked down at their hands, one on each of his, and something shifted in his expression. Not discomfort, but awareness. "You're both extraordinary," he said softly. "I've never met anyone like either of you." The words, meant as a compliment, landed like stones in Zara's chest. She caught Kaida's eyes over Marcus's shoulder and saw her own confusion reflected there. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were meant to assess, to choose, to return home with their selections made. Instead, they were both falling in the same direction toward the same impossibility. The following week brought a rhythm to their days. Mornings in the laboratory, Marcus teaching them about Earth's marine ecosystems while they shared carefully edited details about Etheria's oceans. Afternoons exploring the coastal villages, Marcus introducing them to human culture through food, music, and the simple pleasure of walking through markets filled with earthly abundance. But it was the evenings that became dangerous. One night, Kaida stayed late in the laboratory with Marcus, discussing theories of consciousness in marine life. Zara had gone back to their quarters early, claiming fatigue, but she couldn't sleep. Through the window, she could see the lab lights still burning, could imagine her sister and Marcus bent over microscopes, their heads close together, sharing discoveries in hushed voices. The jealousy that twisted through her was acid and shame in equal measure. Another evening, Marcus invited Zara to join him at a local festival. The town square filled with music and dancing, paper lanterns swaying overhead like captured stars. Marcus taught her the steps to a traditional dance, his hand warm at her waist, his breath close enough that she could smell the wine they'd shared. "You're a natural," he said, spinning her under his arm. "We have similar dances on Etheria," Zara replied, breathless. "But we dance them to celebrate unity, not what?" Marcus asked, pulling her back into the pattern. "Not courtship," she finished quietly. Marcus's steps faltered slightly. "Is that what this is?" Before Zara could answer, she spotted Kaida at the edge of the square watching them. Her sister's expression was carefully neutral, but Zara knew her too well. The hurt was there, buried deep but present. The music swelled around them, but Zara's heart was no longer in the dance. Back at their quarters that night, the sisters finally confronted what had been growing between them. "We can't both love him," Kaida said, her voice barely above a whisper. She sat on the edge of her bed, hands folded in her lap. The picture of composure except for the rapid shifting of her skin's hue, purple deepening to violet, then lightening to lavender in waves of emotion. "I know," Zara replied. She stood at the window watching the ocean's endless motion. "But I don't know how to stop. Mother expects us to choose mates for alliance. Marcus is human. He offers nothing strategically. This attachment is illogical." Zara turned from the window. When has love ever been logical? The word hung between them, love. Neither had dared speak it until now. Kaida stood crossing to her sister. "What do we do?" "I don't know," Zara admitted. "But we can't let this destroy us. We're sisters, Kaida. Whatever happens, we're still sisters." They embraced, holding each other as they had since childhood, but both felt the fracture that had already begun, a hairline crack that threatened to become a chasm. What neither sister knew was that Marcus lay awake in his own quarters, staring at the ceiling, equally tormented. He had felt the shift between all three of them, the impossible geometry of their connection, and though he didn't yet know the full truth of who Zara and Kaida were, he understood with growing certainty that his heart had become a battlefield where something precious was at stake. The fracture. The turning point came on a humid evening 3 weeks into their stay. A storm had rolled in from the Atlantic, the kind that made the research facility feel like a ship adrift in an angry sea. Most of the staff had left early, but Marcus remained in his office, analyzing data from their recent dives. Zara found him there, silhouetted against the window where lightning periodically illuminated the churning ocean. She had come looking for Kaida but found him instead, or perhaps she had been looking for him all along. "You should go home," she said from the doorway. "The storm's getting worse." Marcus turned, and even in the dim light she could see the weariness in his face. "I could say the same to you." "I like storms," Zara said, stepping into the office. "On Etheria we have electrical storms that can last for weeks. They dance across the canyons like living things." "Etheria," Marcus repeated slowly. "You've mentioned your home before, but always in these vague, mythical terms. Where exactly is it?" The question, direct, unavoidable, made Zara's pulse quicken. She had known this moment would come, had rehearsed various versions of truth and deflection. But standing here with Marcus looking at her with those honest, searching eyes, she found she couldn't lie. "Very far away," she said finally, "farther than you can probably imagine." Marcus set down his tablet and moved closer. "Try me. I have a pretty good imagination." Thunder rolled overhead, and in its wake the office felt suddenly smaller, charged with more than atmospheric electricity. Zara could smell the rain on the wind, could feel the heat radiating from Marcus's body, could sense the danger and promise of this moment. "What if I told you Kaida and I aren't from any country on Earth?" The words came out barely above a whisper. "I'd say I've suspected something like that for a while now," Marcus replied. His voice was steady, curious rather than afraid. "The way you sometimes forget to breathe when you're focused. The way your skin shifts color when you're emotional. The way you both seem to know things about biology and physics that shouldn't be possible." Zara's eyes widened. "You noticed?" "I'm a scientist, Zara, I observe." He smiled slightly. "Also, I've been falling for two women who might not be entirely human." I paid attention. The admission, casual, devastating, struck Zara like physical force. "Falling," she repeated. "Yes," Marcus said simply. He reached up, hesitating just before his fingers could touch her cheek. "May I?" Zara nodded, not trusting her voice. His fingertips brushed her skin, tracing the line of her jaw with a gentleness that made her chest ache. On Etheria, touch was ritualized, formal, reserved for specific contexts. This casual intimacy was intoxicating. "Your skin is warmer than human," Marcus murmured, his scientific mind cataloging details even as his heart raced. "And the texture, it's like touching starlight." "Marcus," Zara began, but whatever she might have said evaporated when he leaned closer, his intention clear in the way his gaze dropped to her lips. The kiss. When it came, was soft and searching, a question more than a statement. Zara responded instinctively, her hands finding his shoulders, pulling him closer as lightning flashed outside, momentarily blinding. She had been kissed before, in ceremonial contexts on her homeworld, but this was different. This was choice, desire, the terrifying freedom of wanting and being wanted in return. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "I need to tell you something," he said, "and I need to be honest even though it might ruin this moment." Zara's stomach dropped. "What is it?" "I have feelings for Kaida too." The words should have devastated her. Instead, there was almost relief in hearing him voice what she had already known, what she had been avoiding acknowledging. "I know," Zara said quietly. "I've seen the way you look at her. The way she looks at you. This is impossible, isn't it?" Marcus pulled back slightly, conflict clear in his expression. "I care about you both, but I won't hurt either of you by pretending I can choose." "On Etheria," Zara said slowly, "we have a saying. The heart that divides is the heart that's whole. But our culture also demands singular bonds, especially for royalty." "Royalty?" Marcus's eyes widened. "Zara, what?" The office door swung open and Kaida stood there, rain-soaked, her purple skin darker than Zara had ever seen it. She took in the scene, her sister and Marcus still close, their emotions written clearly on their faces, and something in her expression crumbled. "Kaida," Zara started. "I went looking for you," Kaida said, her voice eerily calm. "Both of you. I wanted to talk, to find a solution together. Instead, I find this." "It's not what you think," Marcus began, but Kaida cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Don't patronize me. I know exactly what this is." She turned to Zara, and the betrayal in her eyes was a knife between ribs. "We promised each other, Zara. We promised we wouldn't let this come between us. And I meant it," Zara protested. "Kaida, I love you. You're my sister, my other half. But you love him too," Kaida finished. "As do I, so where does that leave us?" The question hung unanswered as another crack of thunder shook the building. In the tense silence that followed, a new sound emerged, a high-pitched frequency that made all three of them wince. Zara and Kaida recognized it immediately, a homing beacon from an Etherian vessel. "They found us," Kaida said, the color draining from her skin until she was almost lavender white. "Mother sent scouts." Marcus looked between them, confusion giving way to alarm. "Who found you? What does that mean?" Before either sister could answer, a brilliant beam of violet light penetrated the storm clouds, illuminating the entire coastline. Through the office window they watched as a craft descended. Nothing like Earth's primitive aircraft, but something that moved with organic grace, defying physics as Marcus understood them. "It means," Zara said quietly, taking Marcus's hand even as she reached for Kaida's, "that you're about to learn exactly who we are. And it means our time here just ran out." The craft settled on the beach like a jewel on velvet, and from it emerged figures in ceremonial armor, the Empress's royal guard. Their leader activated a holographic communicator, and suddenly Empress Valora's image materialized in the office, towering and terrible in her disappointment. "My daughters," the Empress said, her voice carrying across light years with perfect clarity, "you were sent to choose mates of strategic value. Instead, you dally with a primitive species and compete like common rivals over a single specimen. This ends now. You will return home immediately and the human will be brought for examination." "Mother, no," both sisters said in unison. But the guards were already advancing up the beach, and Marcus, still processing the revelation of aliens and empresses and impossible choices, looked at the two women he had come to love and asked the only question that mattered. "What do we do?" The choosing. The guards entered the facility with the quiet efficiency of trained soldiers, their armor catching the storm's lightning in prismatic flashes. Marcus instinctively stepped in front of Zara and Kaida, a gesture both futile and deeply human, protecting them even when they were far more powerful than he could comprehend. "Stand aside. Human," the lead guard commanded, her voice modulated through her helmet. "You are to be escorted to the vessel for evaluation." "Evaluation?" Marcus's voice held steady despite the fear Zara could sense radiating from him. "I'm not going anywhere until someone explains what's happening." Zara moved beside him, her hand finding his. "Commander Thera, by my authority as princess, I order you to stand down." The guard's helmet retracted, revealing a woman whose purple skin bore the deeper hues of age and experience. Princess Zara, your authority is superseded by the Empress's direct command. Please don't make this difficult. Kaida stepped forward, placing herself between the guards and Marcus. If you take him, you take us both. We won't be separated. The holographic image of Empress Valora pulsed with disapproval. You dare defy me? For this creature? He offers nothing, no alliance, no strategic advantage, no future for our people. He offers something more valuable, Zara said, her voice growing stronger. He offers choice. Love freely given, not calculated. Mother, you sent us to find mates, and we have both of us. The same one. Impossible, Valora said flatly. Our laws, our traditions demand singular bonds. One mate, one union, one purpose. Marcus, who had been listening with growing understanding, finally spoke. With respect, Empress Valora, I don't fully understand your customs or your laws, but I understand that Zara and Kaida are remarkable individuals who deserve the right to choose their own paths. He glanced between the sisters. Even if that path doesn't include me. The selflessness of the statement hit both sisters like a physical blow. Here was this human, facing alien soldiers and an empress who could obliterate him with a word, and his concern was for their freedom, not his safety. Kaida's eyes welled with tears, a trait inherited from their father's more emotional lineage. Marcus, don't let me finish, he said gently. I've spent the last 3 weeks getting to know you both. Zara, your passion and courage inspire me. You dive into every experience like it might be your last chance to feel alive. Kaida, your wisdom and empathy ground me. You see connections I miss, find beauty in details I overlook. He took a shaky breath. I can't choose between you because you're both essential. But more importantly, you shouldn't have to compete for anyone's affection, including mine. Commander Thera shifted uncomfortably. The human speaks with unexpected wisdom. The human has a name, Zara said sharply. Dr. Marcus Way, and he's right. Mother Kaida and I have been rivals these past weeks, letting our feelings for Marcus fracture the bond we've shared since birth. We were wrong, not for caring about him, but for letting that care divide us. Kaida moved to her sister's side, taking her hand. We've been approaching this the wrong way. We kept thinking one of us had to win, Marcus had to be chosen. But what if the real choice is different? What are you proposing? The Empress asked, her tone sharp with suspicion. Zara and Kaida exchanged a long look, and in that moment something passed between them. Understanding, forgiveness, unity, restored. When Zara spoke again, it was with Kaida's hand firmly in hers. We propose a new tradition, a cultural exchange between Earth and Etheria that begins with understanding, not obligation. Let us stay here, learn from these humans, teach them about our world, and let any bonds that form, whether with Marcus or anyone else, be genuine. You're asking me to abandon centuries of tradition, Valora said. But there was something new in her voice. Consideration. Perhaps I'm asking you to trust us, Zara replied. You raised us to be wise, to think beyond ourselves. This is us doing exactly that. The office fell silent except for the storm's diminishing thunder. The Empress's hologram flickered, processing, calculating. Finally, she spoke to Commander Thera. What is your assessment? Thera removed her helmet fully, revealing a face marked by old battle scars. Majesty, I have served your family for 40 years. I watched these princesses grow from children into women of remarkable character. In my experience, wisdom often comes from challenging tradition, not blindly following it. You would support this rebellion? Valora asked. I would support growth, Thera replied carefully. The princesses make a valid point. Perhaps our survival depends not on strategic alliances, but on learning to connect across differences. This human, Marcus, has shown more courage and selflessness in minutes than most suitors show in years. Marcus looked startled. I'm not trying to be anyone's suitor. I just want them to be happy. That, Thera said with a slight smile, is precisely why you might be worthy of them. The Empress was quiet for a long moment, her holographic image contemplative. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of difficult decision. I will grant you time, 6 of your Earth months. You will establish this cultural exchange. You will prove that this connection has value beyond personal desire. But know this, my daughters, if you fail, you will return home and fulfill your duties as tradition demands. Do you accept these terms? Zara and Kaida looked at each other, then at Marcus, who gave them an encouraging nod despite his own uncertainty about what he was being drawn into. We accept, they said together. Then, I will leave Commander Thera and a small contingent to monitor your progress and ensure your safety. Use this time wisely." The Empress's image began to fade, but her final words hung in the air. "And daughters, don't make me regret trusting your hearts over tradition." When the hologram vanished, the remaining energy in the room seemed to drain with it. The guards filed out silently, leaving only Thera, who regarded the trio with something approaching amusement. 6 months to revolutionize interplanetary relations and sort out your complicated feelings, she said dryly. No pressure. After Thera departed to secure the vessel and establish a base camp, the three of them were finally alone. The storm had passed, leaving the night clear and studded with stars, some of which Marcus now realized might be home to civilizations like Etheria. "So," Marcus said, his voice slightly hoarse, "your alien princess is on a mate-finding mission, and I somehow became the center of an interplanetary incident." Despite everything, Zara laughed. "When you put it that way, it sounds absurd." "It is absurd," Kaida agreed, but she was smiling too. "Wonderfully, impossibly absurd." Marcus moved to the window, looking out at the ocean that had always been his refuge, his connection to something larger than himself. "I need to be honest with you both. I don't know what I'm feeling or what this is becoming. I care about you, both of you, deeply, but I'm also terrified of hurting you, of being inadequate for whatever this situation requires." Zara joined him at the window, careful not to crowd him. "We're terrified too. We've been trained our entire lives for duty, for strategic thinking. Feelings like these weren't part of the curriculum." "Maybe that's the point," Kaida said softly, moving to Marcus's other side. "Maybe the most important things can't be taught or planned. They just happen." Marcus looked between them, these two extraordinary beings who had somehow tumbled into his ordinary life and transformed it into something spectacular and terrifying. "So what happens now?" "Now," Zara said, reaching out to tentatively take his hand. "We figure it out together. No competition, no rivalry, just three people trying to understand what they mean to each other." Kaida placed her hand over both of theirs. "And whatever we discover, whether it's love or friendship or something we don't have words for yet, we discover it honestly." The three of them stood there, hands joined, looking out at the vast ocean and the even vaster sky beyond. 6 months to change everything or lose everything. 6 months to rewrite the rules of two worlds. It would have to be enough. United Stars, the weeks that followed were unlike anything Marcus had experienced. The research facility became a nexus point between two civilizations, with Thera's team setting up sophisticated equipment that allowed direct communication with Etheria. Scientists from around Earth slowly learned about their cosmic neighbors, while Zara and Kaida taught classes on Etherian biology, culture, and technology. But it was in the quiet moments, away from diplomacy and discovery, that the real work happened. Marcus found himself navigating a relationship that had no template, no guidebook. Some evenings he would walk the beach with Zara, talking about philosophy and dreams while she collected shells with the wonder of someone seeing Earth's treasures for the first time. Other nights he would sit in the laboratory with Kaida, working on research that blended their two worlds' knowledge, finding inspiration in her different way of seeing. And sometimes, all three of them would be together, cooking dinner in Marcus's small apartment, laughing at the differences in their culinary traditions, learning the intimate geography of each other's company. On Etheria, Kaida explained one evening as they prepared a meal that combined earth vegetables with Etherian spices, "We have a concept called Teshara. It roughly translates to the space between stars, the emptiness that actually connects everything. Like negative space in art," Marcus said, "chopping vegetables with practiced efficiency. The blank parts that give meaning to the filled parts." "Exactly," Zara agreed, stirring a pot that filled the kitchen with alien aromatics. "We've been so focused on the connection between us that we forgot to honor the spaces, the individuality that makes connection meaningful. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of jealousy, of confusion, of cultural misunderstandings that led to hurt feelings. Once Marcus made plans with Zara without telling Kaida, and the resulting pain in Kaida's eyes taught him that transparency wasn't optional. It was essential. Another time, the sisters lapsed into their native language during an argument, leaving Marcus feeling isolated and uncertain of his place. But they learned. They adapted. They grew. 3 months into their 6-month trial, Marcus was invited to present their joint research at an international marine biology conference. Zara and Kaida attended, disguised with technology that made their purple skin appear human, though they couldn't fully hide the otherworldly grace of their movements. After his presentation, a colleague approached Marcus in the hotel bar. Dr. Sarah Chen had been his mentor in graduate school, and her sharp eyes missed nothing, so, she said, settling onto the bar stool beside him, "Are you going to tell me about them?" Marcus nearly choked on his drink. "About who?" "The two stunning women who've been watching you like you hung the moon. I saw how you looked at them during the presentation like they're your whole world." Sarah smiled knowingly. "I'm happy for you, Marcus. After Emily left, I worried you'd closed yourself off completely." Emily, his ex-fiancée who had ended their engagement 2 years ago because she couldn't handle his devotion to his work. Marcus had thought he was over that heartbreak, but hearing her name reminded him of the fear he still carried, that he wasn't enough, that his love was somehow insufficient. "It's complicated," Marcus said finally, "more complicated than you can imagine." "The best things usually are," Sarah replied. "But let me give you some unsolicited advice. Whatever complexity you're dealing with, don't let fear make your decisions. Fear of inadequacy, fear of judgment, fear of getting hurt, it's all poison. Choose love, whatever form it takes." That night, unable to sleep, Marcus stepped onto the hotel balcony. The city sprawled below, millions of lights mimicking the stars above. He didn't hear Kaida and Zara join him until they were at his sides, wrapped in blankets against the cool air. "Can't sleep either?" Zara asked, thinking, Marcus admitted, about what happens in 3 months, about what your mother will expect, about whether I'm being selfish, keeping you here when you have responsibilities to your people. Kaida leaned her head on his shoulder, a gesture that had become comfortable through repetition. "You're not keeping us anywhere. We're choosing this, choosing you, choosing Earth, choosing the possibility of something new. But what if it's not enough?" The fear, finally voiced, felt simultaneously lighter and heavier. "What if 6 months pass and your mother demands you choose, really choose? I won't ask you to give up everything for me." Zara took his hand, threading her fingers through his. "Marcus, you still don't fully understand. The choice isn't between our world and yours or between duty and love. The choice is about what kind of future we want to build, one bound by old rules or one that writes new ones." "We've been communicating with our mother regularly," Kaida added. "The cultural exchange is working. Scientists from both worlds are collaborating. Artists, philosophers, educators, they're all finding common ground. What started as our personal rebellion is becoming something larger." Marcus turned to look at them both, these women who had crashed into his life and rewritten everything he thought he knew about love and possibility. "I need to tell you both something. Something I should have said weeks ago, but I was too afraid." Both sisters straightened, suddenly alert. "What is it?" Zara asked. "I love you," Marcus said simply. "Both of you. Not halfway, not divided, completely. I love Zara's fire and courage, the way she throws herself into every moment like it's sacred. I love Kaida's wisdom and gentleness, the way she finds connection in everything. I love the way you finish each other's sentences. I love that you argue about Etherean politics over breakfast. I love that you both cry at Earth sunsets. I love how you've become part of my life so completely that I can't imagine it without you." Silence fell, broken only by the distant sounds of the city below. Then Kaida spoke, her voice thick with emotion. "On Etheria, when someone declares love, the traditional response is to show them your true self. No pretense, no protection. Will you accept this from us?" "Always," Marcus said. Zara moved first, pulling him into a kiss that tasted of starlight and promise. When she stepped back, Kaida took her place, her kiss softer but no less profound. Then both sisters embraced him together, the three of them holding each other under the Earth's moon and Etheria's distant star, writing their own constellation. The final month brought challenges. Empress Valora arrived personally, her ship a magnificent vessel that drew worldwide attention. The President of Portugal met her in a historic first contact, but Valora insisted on speaking primarily with her daughters and Marcus. They met in the research facility's main hall, which had been transformed into a neutral diplomatic space. Valora in person was even more imposing than her hologram, tall, regal, her purple skin marked with bioluminescent patterns that denoted her royal status. "Show me what you've built," she commanded. For the next week they did. Valora attended joint research sessions, witnessed human and Etherian children learning together through newly established exchange programs, observed the genuine friendships forming between species. She studied Marcus, questioned him rigorously about his intentions, his capabilities, his understanding of what loving her daughters would require. On the final day, Valora requested a private meeting with just the three of them. They gathered in Marcus's office, the same space where their crisis had begun months ago. "I came here expecting to collect my daughters and end this experiment," Valora said without preamble. "I was prepared to forcibly separate you if necessary, Dr. Wei." Marcus felt his heart hammering but kept his expression steady. "And now? Now I find myself questioning traditions I've upheld my entire life." Valora turned to her daughters. "Zara, Kaida, you have accomplished something I thought impossible. You've created genuine connection between our peoples. More than that, you've shown me that strength comes not from rigid adherence to rules but from the courage to reimagine them." Zara and Kaida exchanged glances, barely daring to hope. "However," Valora continued, and Marcus's heart sank, "I cannot simply abolish our mating traditions. Too much of our society is built upon them." "Mother," Zara started, but Valora held up a hand. "Let me finish. I propose a compromise. Zara and Kaida will remain on Earth as ambassadors, facilitating the continued exchange between our worlds. Dr. Wei, you will be granted citizenship on Etheria and given a position in our royal court as an advisor on interspecies relations. The three of you will pioneer a new form of bond, one that honors both your connection and your individual autonomy." "What does that mean exactly?" Kaida asked carefully. Valora's expression softened, the first truly maternal look Marcus had seen from her. "It means I'm trusting you to figure it out. Write your own rules. Define your own relationship. If it fails, you will face consequences. But if it succeeds," she paused and something like wonder crossed her face. "If it succeeds, you'll change both our worlds forever." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "Empress Valora, I can't promise I won't make mistakes. I can't promise I'll always understand your daughter's needs or your culture's expectations. But I can promise I'll spend every day trying. I'll love them with everything I am. That," Valora said, "is all any of us can promise." 6 months later, Marcus stood on a balcony in the Etherian royal palace, looking out over a city that glowed with bioluminescence, alive with light in ways Earth cities could never match. Behind him he heard familiar voices, Zara and Kaida arguing playfully about the schedule for the day's diplomatic meetings. They had been right all those months ago in the storm. The heart that divides is the heart that's whole. Marcus had learned that love wasn't a finite resource to be split between people, but something that grew exponentially when freely given. He loved Zara's boldness, Kaida's thoughtfulness, and the way they both challenged him to be better than he thought possible. The relationship had a name now in both languages. On Earth they called it a triad, 3 points of a stable structure. On Etheria they used the word Teshkala, which meant starborn unity. Different words, same meaning. Family chosen by love rather than duty. "Marcus," Zara called from inside. "We're going to be late for the council meeting." "Coming." He took one last look at the alien sky, thinking about the journey that had brought him here. A simple marine biologist who had somehow become part of a love story that spanned stars. As he turned to join Zara and Kaida, Marcus smiled. The future was uncertain, it always would be. But uncertainty with them was better than any guarantee without them. Behind him, Earth's sun rose over the horizon of this alien world, a distant point of light reminding him of home. Ahead of him, 2 women who had become his world waited, ready to face whatever came next. Together, they walked into the palace, writing the next chapter of their impossible, beautiful story. The stars, after all, had chosen well. The end.